Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're taking a slightly different road, heading far beyond the bustling highways, the crowded suburbs, and the bright city lights. We're venturing deep into the shadows, to the forgotten towns, the abandoned hospitals, and the once vibrant amusement parks that millions of people have just, well, completely left behind. These are places where history has been literally frozen in time, leaving us with these quiet, mysterious echoes of the past.
Okay, let's dive into this. I want you to imagine, just for a second, walking right down the main street of a town where every single door stands wide open and all the clocks have simply stopped ticking. Imagine looking through a cracked, dusty window and seeing everyday belongings sitting there totally untouched in a place where not a single living soul has set foot for decades. It's a seriously eerie thought, right? But what actually causes an entire, thriving community to just vanish and leave absolutely everything behind?
Well, it usually comes down to four main tragic catalysts, or forces of ruin. Some of these communities were completely wiped out in a sudden instant by the sheer, unforgiving force of a natural disaster. Others fell victim to a slow, grinding economic collapse. They just helplessly ran out of money and opportunity. And then, some were emptied out of pure, desperate necessity, with people fleeing a terrifying disease outbreak or the ravages of war. But regardless of the exact cause, the end result is always the same. These once lively places were abandoned, left to decay as nature slowly and silently takes them back.
Part 1. The Endless Underground Fire in Centralia, Pennsylvania.
We're kicking our journey off on the East Coast with a story that sounds like it was ripped straight out of a dystopian sci-fi movie, but I promise you, it is 100% real. Centralia was destroyed not by a massive storm or a crashing economy, but by an invisible threat right beneath people's feet. It all started back in the early 1960s when a fire accidentally sparked inside an abandoned coal mine deep underground. No one expected it to spread. Actually, they probably didn't realize the sheer scale of the danger at first, but those vast underground coal seams caught fire. In the years that followed, the earth literally split open. Smoldering cracks tore through neighborhood streets, and poisonous gases just started venting directly out of the ground. It got so bad over the next few decades that the government finally had to step in, condemn the town, and relocate nearly everyone. And the craziest part of the whole shebang? That underground fire is still burning today.
So the crucial point is 60+ years. That is how long this unstoppable underground fire has been raging. That's 6 whole decades of a slow-moving apocalypse happening right beneath the soil. And to put that into perspective, scientists believe there's enough coal down there that this fire could easily keep burning for centuries. It's just a permanent smoking scar on the American landscape.
Moving on to Part 2, Relics of the Gold Rush, Bodie, California, and Bannack, Montana. And this brilliantly illustrates the wild whiplash of the American frontier. We're heading out west now, stepping back into the explosive ambition of the 1800s. Places built on wild dreams, massive greed, and the frantic hope of striking it rich overnight. Back in the 1860s, these towns saw explosive economic booms. We're talking thousands of fortune seekers pouring in, throwing up booming saloons, schools, and churches basically out of thin air. But the second the gold dried up, the people vanished just as fast. Today, those same booming saloons are completely empty. All that's left is absolute silence and perfectly preserved, untouched ghost towns.
Walking through Bodie and Bannack today it's a deeply surreal experience. It honestly feels like you're stepping through a portal straight into the Old West. Because everyone packed up and left so rapidly, you can still peer into these homes and see heavy wooden furniture or even dishes resting on the dining tables, sitting exactly where they were left over a century ago. Unlike those polished-up tourist traps you might have visited, these buildings stand as raw, decaying storytellers of America's frontier days.
All right, Part 3. New York's secret quarantine on North Brother Island.
Now let's bring the energy down a bit and head back east to something far more hidden and definitely much more mysterious. Just a stone's throw beyond that massive, iconic New York City skyline is one of the country's most heavily restricted and least known abandoned spots. For decades, North Brother Island wasn't a town at all. It was a massive quarantine hospital. This is where patients suffering from highly contagious, deadly diseases were totally isolated from the public. One of its most famous and definitely most tragic residents was Mary Mallon, better known as Typhoid Mary. Knowing that really humanizes the island, right? It reminds us that these crumbling brick walls once held desperate, sick individuals who were completely locked away from the rest of society.
Eventually, those medical facilities closed their doors forever. And today, the island has been totally reclaimed by nature. It's an incredibly eerie, almost apocalyptic thing to see. You've got massive trees growing directly up through the collapsing floors of the hospital wards. Where doctors and nurses used to rush around, wild birds are now nesting inside these decaying, shadowed medical hallways. Today, the city keeps access to North Brother Island heavily restricted, so almost no one is allowed to visit. It just sits there, a fascinating, forbidden time capsule right in the middle of the East River.
Which brings us to part 4, the Drowned Amusement Park, Six Flags New Orleans. Let's move down to Louisiana and see how this builds into something a bit more modern but deeply tragic. We aren't looking at century-old ghost towns here. We're looking at a melancholic casualty of a massive natural disaster. When Hurricane Katrina made landfall back in 2005, the levee failures caused this entire massive theme park to be completely submerged under corrosive floodwaters for weeks. At first, there was some optimism that the park could be salvaged, but the immense costs of the damage meant those hopes of reopening just slowly faded away, and the stark reality set in. The park was left permanently to decay, turning what used to be a place of vibrant childhood joy into a drowned, modern wasteland.
If you go to the perimeter of the park today, the visuals are just staggering. Enormous, towering roller coasters are just sitting there, slowly rusting away beneath thick layers of invasive vines. Massive Ferris wheels stand perfectly still against the southern sky, frozen in place since that fateful week in 2005. Down on the ground, brightly colored ticket booths are rotting, slowly collapsing right back into the earth. It is a haunting, completely silent monument to the unyielding power of nature.
Finally, Part 5, Echoes of American History, a haunting reminder.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how it connects to all of us today. As we wrap up this journey, we have to realize that from the permanently burning ground in Pennsylvania to the drowned coasts of Louisiana, these aren't just spooky, empty buildings for us to look at. They are stark, powerful reminders that human civilization is incredibly fragile. Any thriving community, no matter how prosperous it seems right now, can disappear. Whether they fell victim to unpredictable nature, ruthless economic shifts, or just lost opportunity, they stand as crucial preservers of our history. The streets might be empty, but their stories are still echoing through time, teaching us about survival, ambition, and the undeniable power of time itself.
So, what does this all mean for us? Well, I gotta ask, which of these abandoned places fascinated you the most? Was it the endless underground fire of Centralia poisoning the earth from below? Maybe the frozen-in-time saloons of the gold rush? Or the tragic drowning of that modern theme park? Take a moment to reflect on these historical echoes. Let them spark your curiosity. And for sure, keep exploring the history that time forgot.